Today we're going to do polynomial division using long division and synthetic division. On the first one it says, in each of the following, a polynomial p of x and a divisor d of x are given. Use long division to find the quotient q of x and the remainder r of x when p of x is divided by d of x. Express p of x in the form d of x times q of x plus r of x. So the first thing you want to do is set it up. So if you're doing p of x divided by d of x, it's the same thing as x cubed plus 6x squared minus 25x plus 18 divided by x plus 9. Now, in this form, you won't be able to divide it using long division. You're going to write it as division learned in kindergarten, which is taking this as outside the house and then everything else inside the house. Well, I guess not kindergarten, maybe first grade. Now comes the complication of long division, right? Because just like we divide numbers, we ask ourselves, what multiplied by what will give me the closest number to the number that I have here? Then we have to subtract. We're going to do all of that, but in a very interesting fashion. So the question is, first, before we go into the division, everything has to be in order. And by that I mean the highest exponent is first, next the next highest exponent, then the next one, then the next one. If you're missing any values, you should write it as 0 and then the x with the exponent you're missing. Now, that also counts for this side. This also has to be in order. Once it's in order, then we can start. So the question is, 1 multiplied by x will give me x cubed. Well, with a little thought, you multiply x by x squared and you get x cubed. So I'm going to write that x squared on top of the x squared. Okay. And then you have to distribute x squared for x plus 9. Okay. So if I distribute x squared by x plus 9, you get x to the cube, right? Because x squared times x is x cubed. And then x squared times 9 is 9x squared. Now, just like division, you subtract. When you subtract, you have to subtract everything inside. So what I tell my students is, instead of writing the parentheses there, just change all the signs immediately. So this minus stays on here, but this one becomes also minus. Okay? Now x cubed minus x cubed is 0, and it always has to give you a 0. 6x squared minus 9x squared is negative 3x squared. Now, you repeat the algorithm. You ask yourself, 1 multiplied by x will give you negative 3x squared. Well, the answer is negative 3x. Now, negative 3x times x is negative, oh, and I forgot also, you have to lower the other term, so negative 25x, just like regular division. Negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. Negative 3x times 9 is negative 27x. Okay? Now, since we're subtracting, okay, like I said, change all the signs immediately. So plus here, plus here. Negative 3x squared plus 3x squared is 0. Negative 25x plus 25x is 2x. Then you lower the next term, which is 18. Now the question is, 1 multiplied by x will give you 2x. Just 2. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 9 is 18. Now we change the signs immediately. Okay. 2x minus 2x is 0. 18 minus 18 is also 0. So you have a remainder of 0. Now what does that mean in terms of the question? It says use long division to find the quotient, the remainder. But before that it says, oh, this is not the, never mind. It's remainder 0. So if I wanted to write it in this form, dx times qx plus r of x, well, who's q of x? Q of x is this polynomial right here, x squared minus 3x plus 2. Okay, so I'm going to write that as q of x. And then r of x is the remainder, which is 0. So that means that p of x, which is d of x times q of x plus r of x, we just have to substitute all the terms. So what's p of x is this big term here, x cubed plus 6x squared minus 25x plus 18. That's p of x. D of x is the divisor, which is x plus 9, times your quotient, which we found to be x squared minus 3x plus 2. And then plus your remainder, which is 0. Now, this is what is asking for this question. Now let's go ahead and use synthetic division. So synthetic division is a much faster process, okay? But it only works, and this is like the disclaimer, it only works when you're dividing linear factors, okay? It will not work for higher degrees than 1, okay? Now, x minus 3, so x to the 5 plus x cubed minus 5x. Well, let's leave this one for last because I want to explain a little bit more. Let's go to this one right here. Okay. So 3x cubed minus x squared plus 4x minus 10 divided by x plus 1. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to solve for the linear equation. So x plus 1 equals 0. That means that x equals negative 1. That number that you get is the number you're going to write inside the little box. Okay? This is a negative 1. Now, outside the box, you're going to write all the coefficients of the polynomial you're dividing in order. So 3, negative 1, 4, negative 10. Okay? Now you draw another line, and this is the algorithm. First, you take the first number, you lower it down, and then you take the number inside the box and you multiply by the number you just lowered. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. Here, when you get to this step, you're going to add them. So negative 1 plus negative 3 is negative 4. Now you repeat the process. Negative 1 times negative 4 is positive 4. 4 plus 4 is 8. Negative 1 times 8 is negative 8. And negative 10 minus 8 is negative 18. Notice that I made another box here because the synthetic division is going to give me the following information. The question is, what's the quotient now? What's q of x? Well, the numbers that you get here, these guys, represent the coefficients of the quotient polynomial. And remember, the quotient polynomial is going to be of 1 degree less. So if we started with x cubed, then this is going to be x squared. So the quotient here is 3x squared minus 4x plus 8. And then what's inside the box is r of x, which is your remainder. Okay? And that will be your division. Now, very similar process. The only difference here, well, let's start with the number inside the box. X minus 3 equals 0. That means x equals 3. So 3 goes inside the box. Let me use a different color because I've been using this fuchsia for too long. Okay, let's use blue. I like blue. So x equals 3. 3 is the number inside the box. Now, when we write all the coefficients, you also have to write the missing coefficients. Okay, so x to the 5 is 1. Notice that we don't have x to the 4, so we put a 0. We do have x cubed, so we put a 1. We don't have x squared, so we put a 0. We do have x, so we put negative 1. We don't have the non-x one, so we put a 0. Okay? And that's how you will write it. And then you start with the process. You lower the first one. 3 times 1 is 3. You add 0 plus 3 is 3. 3 times 3 is 9. You add 9 plus 1 is 10. 3 times 10 is 30. 30 plus 0 is 30. 3 times 30 is 90. Negative 1 minus 90 is 89. 3 times 89, I'll have to compute it. 1 second, let me take out my brain. 3 times 9 is 27. Put a 2 here. 3 times 8 is 24. Plus 2 is 26. So 267. We add 0 plus that, and you get 267. Oh, I put a 2 there. I have no idea why. Okay, 267. So now the quotient polynomial, q of x. Remember, all of this is your quotient. We start with the degree 1 degree lower than the highest degree. So this one is x to the 4. So 1x to the 4 is just x to the 4. Plus 3x cubed. Plus 10x squared. Plus 30x. Plus 89. And your remainder is just 267. Okay? And that's how you will solve these problems. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Ask me in class. Thank you. Have a great day.